So hello everyone and welcome to In My Experience. And I'm Piperlyne and I'm here with my friend Sonya Lee.
Hello everybody. How you doing today?
And we're here to talk about International Women's Month. So International Women's Day has already passed.
Yes.
But it is a whole month.
Yes.
And
As it should be.
As it should be, or 365 days a year.
Right.
But Sonia had the wonderful idea of the topic for this week. So I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce it.
Oh, well, okay then.
So hello.
Well, hello. Well, by the time you listen to this podcast, I will be 55. Because my birthday's coming up. And we usually post on Tuesday, so it'll be the day after my birthday. And I was just thinking about how I just can't believe that I'm turning 55. Like, I can't even drive 55. So how can I be 55?
Meaning she drives faster than 55, just for those of you not
Come
catching
on,
that.
Hager people.
I know. It's our gen. It's our gen.
It is our gen. That's all we had, right? It was fast cars and fast men or women.
And men or women.
And fast times at Ridgemont High and life in the fast lane and all of those good
all
days.
the fast.
And so so I've been sitting with this and just kind of thinking about, because I've never had an issue. Like, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be old. I couldn't wait till I was old, and then people would have to listen to me and respect me.
I resemble that.
Right? Because, when you know things as a child, and then people treat you like a child, and they don't believe you, and then things happen, and then you look at them like, I told you so, dumbass. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't get you a whole lot when you're like 7. Except maybe sent to bed without supper. So I always wanted to be old, but about a week or so ago, it occurred to me, whoa, how the hell did I get to be 55?
Right.
Like, what happened? Did I lose a few years? Did I, shift dimensions or something? And while I...
Yes, yes.
Right. Correct. You are correct. And then I kind of laughed because I chose this for the topic today. And it's like, well, obviously, if I have an issue with it, I wouldn't be talking about it, because I don't know that every woman would be going, hey, guess what, people? I'm turning 55. Mm-hmm. But again, it's this sort of space that I've been in for the last week or two. I can't wait till I'm grown up. Okay, now I'm a grown up. What was I waiting for?
Hello?
What was going to be so cool?
Right.
I still don't feel like people listen to me, although I hope you listen to me.
We thank all that you do.
Yes.
All who do. There we go.
And then with this being International Women's Month, it also made me thinking about how we as women do have certain things put upon us about, acting our age and, not, being old and dressing young, being young and dressing old.
Right.
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 And all the things that go with that. And so I thought, well, all right, maybe we can find a way to, sort of roundhouse all of this. So I don't know where this conversation is going to go today. It was just a couple of things that I thought, oh, that might be interesting to talk about. And I'm really clear about that when I personally, I don't know about Piperlyne, but when I personally talk about the International Women's Day, it's more than just a feminist perspective or anything like that. I haven't had a whole lot of lives as a woman. I believe in past lives, and most of them have been warrior men. I will cut off your head and crap down your neck kind of scenarios, or have said done to me.
Right.
And the few times that I was a woman, I was very much at risk. And so I think that's why I chose to be a warrior man, because I had to level the playing field there a little bit, if you will. I didn't ever really, I railed against those stereotypes and those restrictions. And I've been fortunate enough that I've been forward and assertive, or aggressive, as I've been called by some boyfriends in the past, enough to be able to, move myself forward along my path of life, and not have a whole lot of instances where I have felt marginalized or whatnot. And again, too, right? I'm a mother of 5 sons. I had 2 brothers. I've been around a lot of men, so I just kind of could just sort of slipstream, shape shift. Nobody really noticed that I was there, and yet here I am, showing up with the big boys.
Absolutely.
So it's been a little bit different experience for me. So I'm going to share from a little bit different perspective. So this might not be sort of the, rah rah go girl that, look at that, that's not go woman. That.
Well, I think we can call ourselves girls.
Can we?
Yeah.
It's not misogynistic?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think we can call ourselves girls.
Okay. Well, gals, whatever. And again, we as a collective of divine feminine energy all agreed to be here right now, I believe, because we need to embody those strong, powerful Wonder Woman type qualities,
right,
to help bring equality. And I think that's also why we're seeing a lot more men that are coming in with, so we're carrying as females divine masculine energy, and I'm seeing more, especially the younger men, in that masculine carrying divine feminine energy and being more at ease in it.
Right.
So that's sort of how I look at it. It's just the merging and the blending. We both have both of those masculine and feminine qualities within us.
Which we always have.
And always will.
Yes.
It's just sometimes we say, okay, but I'm going to make that part kind of go dark, and I'm just going to focus the spotlight on this. And so being someone that sort of blurred those lines, so to speak, it's given me some unique experiences. And it's also allowed for me to have a different perspective on what it is to be a female, and how I have come to embrace some of the softer sides, and release and heal some of the pain that associated with being female incarnate in previous lifetimes, aka burned at the stake, had my head cut off, been drowned in water,
Stoned.
Yeah.
Stoned, I remember.
Publicly stoned. Oh, that was the worst.
I remember that.
That one was not fun.
So, yeah, I mean, what Sonya didn't mention, she and I have our birthdays one day apart.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are both sitting in a place that by the time that when you hear this, she will have turned 55 and I will have turned, I had to think about it for a second because I wasn't at 53. And I was also always in the same place. I mean, I graduated from high school a year early. I was like, get me the F out of here because I need to be listened to. Now, of course, a lot of that has to do with, teenagers know everything and 20-year-olds, we know everything. And then we learn that we don't. And so that's part of it. But I also, there are a lot of times where I didn't say a lot. But when I did, I meant what I said, and I said it with passion, and you were going to listen to me, or there were going to be problems.
Right.
But then other times I would just sit there and be quiet because I didn't need to say everything or talk about everything. But
she had that Virgo discipline that I didn't have.
But yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and I've never had an age hit me.
No.
I've celebrated some birthdays more than others simply because of life more than anything else. Right. But I've never gone and was like, oh, hell, now I'm this. But
yeah, neither have I.
I'm thankful for that. And Sonya mentioned, pictures, looking at pictures of the women of the 70s. And be like, okay, so these women of the 70s are your grandmas now.
Yeah.
And you see these women of the 70s, right? And their hair, and I mean, they are
still as hip now as they were then.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were some hip cats. But then you look at generational too, right? Because we're going to talk about ages and generational. There is a very, very set, acceptable way of being for women from the boomer generation.
Remember when it was required to wear pantyhose to work?
I do remember. I was at the bottom end of the girl. I was a flight attendant. We had to wear, yeah. So
So here I am, 17-year-old sporting thigh highs because I'm like, I am not putting pantyhose.
Yeah, thank God for thigh highs.
Right?
I tell you what, best ones ever were Victoria's Secret. They were so freaking expensive, but they lasted forever.
They did because the elastic stayed up. They didn't slip down on you.
Yes.
Yes, no, true.
Yes.
But yeah, that was my workaround.
That's right.
From
I loved my thigh high stockings. But yeah, I mean, we started out when I got into work, working in an office. When I started working for the airline, which was my first real adult job,
Right.
I was working in an office, right? So I had my suits that looked like men's suits with shoulder pads and
yes.
pantyhose.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Girlfriend, and that was it. But
we were young women of the 80s.
yes, we were killing it.
It was a whole style. Big hair, big shoulders, big life.
Oh, the big hair. Yeah. Woo!
And Aquanet, I'm sorry for what I did to contribute to
To
the
what I
decline
did.
of ozone on this planet.
We are still paying for the 80s hairspray in our climate right now, I think. And if this doesn't resemble you, ask your mom.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
And
because she's
she
going to
will
be like,
laughing.
uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah, tell her, go ahead, bring out that high school picture of you. Oh, girlfriend, my hair was like 3 times thicker than it is now. And then I had a
Yeah.
perm.
Right.
So it was like, 4 feet high practically.
Right, with a widow's peak. Yes.
But so the boomer generation, which is the generation before ours, the
Right.
boomer generation had a very strict, they were still very traditional. And we have traditional all through all generations. But then Gen X came along, which is what we are.
Yep.
And we have a lot more freedom in how we want to define or express ourselves.
Because we were left to our own devices,
Well, yeah.
latchkey children.
What was it? I was reading something somewhere, and they're like, Gen X, the generation to be scared of is Gen X.
Yeah.
Because they don't fucking care.
Not at all.
So we're like, whatever. You don't like me? Okay, I don't care.
Right.
So thanks for telling me.
We were the catalyst of emo and goth.
Right.
And all. We didn't have the fancy suits or the black eyeliner. We just had the feelings inside, the angst.
Thanks. So we have freedom. Not that Sonya and I wouldn't be just who we are because that's who we are, but we absolutely have much more freedom and ease of expressing ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
At our ages than the women in the previous generation.
Absolutely. We look at our mothers and we see like where they're at and what they've done and accomplished, but then knowing too that they absolutely had to, sort of carve and pave that road for us.
Right.
And we followed because if we didn't, we were afraid they were going to leave us. Moms of the 70s didn't wait for you to catch up like they do today.
They were just going to smoke their cigarettes and be
Drink
like,
their Pepsis, and I'll catch you on the way back. I don't have time to wait. Pick you up right now.
if you're thirsty, go drink out of the hose. You're fine.
Right.
You're fine.
But as such, so we really were kind of the ones that were, breaking down a lot of the barriers, asking a lot of the questions, trying to change a lot of the things so that when we look at some of the Gen X or the millennials, thank you, couldn't think, and then the Gen Ys. I'm losing my generations here right now in my mind. They, I've literally heard some of them that are in like their late 20s go, I don't understand what the big deal is about, because they don't have that experience in the work, in relationships, in whatever. And it's like, yeah, and that's great because we worked pretty hard
because of the work done before you. Absolutely. Like it was our mothers generation that couldn't get credit on their own, might not be able to buy a house on their own. Now, this wasn't straight true across the board for all areas, but it was true for many, many women in many different parts of the country.
Couldn't get their tubes tied without their husband's signature.
Unfortunately,
in some states, that's still the
case.
I know.
That's still a thing. But yeah, I had my first credit card at 18, all by myself.
Yep.
So big changes.
It was a big thing.
Just in the past generation.
And it looks at, we're dealing with some issues right now, the Me Too movement, things like that. And they are still valid. I mean, obviously I still believe that, women globally are still the most marginalized, discriminated, group on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And don't hate me on that. There are statistics that justify that. And again, remember, I said globally.
Right, absolutely.
I'm very fortunate to have been born in a Western country, and I don't have to fear peeing in a bush.
Right.
Being, raped and then, excised from your village because of that, or your family. I mean, there are just some really horrific things, and I'm grateful that I don't have to have that experience. But also, by not having that experience, I have felt like I've needed, though, to not pretend like there aren't still, women out there that do, and to work towards creating and supporting that equality, but not in a, you've got to lower yourself so that I can rise above. Just, I'm going to stand here in my plot, my space that I'm taking up, and I'm going to take it up.
Mm-hmm.
You're free to do over there in your space whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my space, right? And I'm sure you can probably agree with that too. And in some cases, especially in my teens and 20s, it was met with some resistance by my parents, by teachers. I didn't have any high school boyfriends, because while I lamented that, when I saw my girlfriends with their boyfriends, oh God, was I glad that I didn't have to deal with that shit. What do you mean you can't go with me to the mall because he doesn't want you going anywhere by yourself?
I don't even know what that means.
You're 16. What is that even about, right?
Right.
So, a little bit different experience for me, and yet, I don't deny the fact that there are still, and have been, real issues that need to be looked at, that need to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't make light of any of that. I'm just talking about my own personal experience here. And, what I'm celebrating right now in that International Women's Month is the fact that I have been able to have my own head, make my own way,
Mm-hmm.
for good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Frank Sinatra. I did it my way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I did it my way.
Right.
And I've got some nice things to show for it.
Right.
And not just materially, but, I raised 5 sons that are good men out in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel really proud about that. I've, loved some good men,
Mm-hmm.
and been loved by them. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of that,
Absolutely.
I've helped myself and a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
to overcome our own, not even external, but our own internal shortcomings, restrictions, and issues
Right.
of self-worth and value and power. And so I feel like I've done a good job so far.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good about where I'm at, although there were times looking back on the path, I didn't feel so good about the road that took me there.
Right.
But it's nice to be able to sit here today and think, all right, well, I can't believe that I'm here now at this age. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a lot of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely in a lot of gratitude, and I'm grateful. This is going to be really funny for people who have known me for a long time. I'm really grateful that I'm a woman.
I never wanted to be anything else, and I had that thought. I mean, I have thought all sorts of weird things, all along my life, but I remember having the thought even as a teenager, that I wouldn't want to be a man, and men can be amazing and beautiful, just like women can be amazing and beautiful. So this is not about disliking men in any way, shape, or form.
We're not doing that.
But what I saw was, even before I had a title or an explanation for it yet, what I saw were the limitations that men had in expressing their emotions.
Right.
And I am all emotion, and I couldn't even imagine how painful that would be, and I would not want that.
Yeah.
I would not want that. But I had no intention whatsoever of being limited by the fact that I was a woman. I also had my own head and I did things my own way. I did deal with, I mean, when I was younger in my 20s, right? I had the long blonde hair, I had the blue eyes, I was thin, I was shapely, I had all the things.
She was hot.
I had all the thing. But when it came to being in a position of power, because in my first job with the airlines, I moved into a supervisory position within 6 months of being hired.
Yeah.
So I was 19 and supervising, people who were
double your age.
More than double my age. And so I can't say I didn't run into that. I can't say then as a flight attendant that I didn't run into both passengers and pilots that would look at me and go, "Oh, isn't she cute?" and pat me on the head. I mean, I remember September 11th, right? September 11th. So I was a flight attendant. We were boarding a flight out of San Diego. I don't know where we were going. And it was an early morning flight. So it was San Diego. So everything was going on the East Coast while we were boarding. So I was learning about this, and everyone is shook, right? Obviously, everyone is shook, and we don't know what's going on.
Right.
We're being fed pieces of information as they can be. So I'm talking with the operations agent, which was the gentleman who would work with operations and us to make sure the numbers were right and pull back the jetway and do all of that so that we could leave. So I'm talking to him, and he has more than one flight that he's working on, right? And I'm sure the pilots are talking to, the tower.
Yeah.
But I'm standing there on the plane, and this is when cell phones just started being a thing, right? So everyone's getting cell phone calls. And they're looking at me, and I'm standing there. I'm the first flight attendant, and they're looking at me, and they're talking on the phone, and the then video started coming out. So they were playing the video on the TV, and the operations agent came to me, and he said it was a Boeing passenger aircraft that hit those. And you work in the airline industry long enough, your airplanes.
Right.
You just do.
Right.
Just like any industry, you just know what you know. Mm-hmm. So I go, I was like, and that shook everybody. So one of the first officer comes out, and both pilots were male. The first officer comes out, and I tell him what the the operations agent had told me, and he looked at me, and he completely denied it. He's like, "That is not true." And I'm like, I went up and saw it myself. I know what the outline of a passenger aircraft looks like.
Right.
It was, and he's like, "No." And he repeatedly told me no. And I'm like, then go up, because I have no.
Right.
I'm not playing. Then go up there and look yourself.
Right.
So anyway, when it came to the point of, and it was just mayhem, and it felt like it lasted for 8 hours, and it didn't. This was like a matter of 10 minutes. Agent comes back and he says, "You know what? Everyone needs to deplane. We're shutting down the aircraft or the airport. They're shutting down airspace, all of this." And so I go to the pilots, and I'm like, okay, who's going to make the announcement to the passengers? Because they're all staring at us, right? And the pilots had the cockpit door closed.
Yeah.
So I'm the first. So this is my job. Who's going to? And they both look at me, and they're shaking their heads. I'm like, "You're the pilots. This needs to come from you."
Yeah.
And they're shaking their heads. And I walk out there, and the ops agent is standing there. And I said, "They won't say anything." He said, "I can't. I've already done it like 3 times. I can't say it again." I'm like, fuck.
Wow.
So I grab the PA, and I'm making this announcement, and my voice didn't shake. I didn't, and just sitting here thinking about it, right?
Like I can feel her. She's getting like she's reliving this moment.
It was intense.
It was intense.
So I make the announcement, and I tell them all that we know, and they start leaving the aircraft. And I was just, and I'm still at this point. I understand the ops agent not wanting to say it again, because it's just so difficult to say. The fact that the pilots refused to say anything. I'm like, this shit comes from you guys. So this was the type of thing. So I was the cute little flight attendant, pat her on the head. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Fuck you. I'm just going to tell the entire aircraft what's going on then, since you cannot do it.
Right.
So this is how I have chosen. Well, I don't know if I chose, right? How much did we choose?
Mars and Aries, we chose.
Okay, fine.
Merc. So
it's us. But I mean, so this is just what I did. This is how I lived. I just stepped up to do what needed to be done.
not because you wanted to be the leader,
No.
but because nobody else was going to do something,
Right.
and something needed to be done.
Right.
I might resemble that remark.
Absolutely. So it didn't matter my age. It didn't matter whether I was male or female. None of that mattered. I just did what needed to be done. So it's interesting to look back at the comparisons of, I mean, I also had passengers. They're like, I'm not going to speak to you. I need to speak to a man.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. So I got one of my agents to talk to them because they want to talk to a man. Agent looks at me. I said no. She said no. And so that passenger was not happy with me. But I met that throughout my lifetime, but it did not alter my experience, nor did it stop me. But I understand that that is not a true story for everybody.
No.
It is not a true story for everybody. So it is a real experience that, I mean, of course, that was years ago.
Sure.
But it is still happening.
Absolutely.
It is still happening. And those are the things that we need. I read an opinion, and I've looked for it since then, and I can't find it. It was a writer, an author. It was a man. And it was, once again, just an opinion piece. But he said, I came to understand that we don't trust women. We don't believe them.
Yeah.
When they say something, as a man, when a woman, even when I love her, he's like, this is what led me to it. He talked about an experience with his wife. Even when we love her, when we trust her, when we know her, she says something that doesn't agree with what we know to be true, we simply don't believe her.
That's how my first marriage ended.
We placate.
Yep.
He said, and this is a thing, he said, and now that I have seen it in my marriage, it's like I am so much more aware of it, how it happens every day in life. And so that's a thing.
It is. And
that
it's
we're
a thing
still
that's-
dealing with.
We are, and it's changing. I mean, we see
It is
women in
changing.
leadership everywhere. We see women, fierce moms and, strong corporate leaders and just in all those areas. We are seeing that shifting. And yet even with the shifting, there's still that, it's like, okay, we solved it in this area. Great. Oh, but guess what? We got a fire over here. So then we got to run over there. We got to solve it in that area, right? And so it does seem like a woman's work is never done. Yet when you think about, and you were talking about this where we didn't believe women, and it immediately takes me back, in history where literally there were people that wrote books, psychiatrists, doctors that wrote, medical doctors that wrote books that said, because of the fact that women, menstruate,
Right.
right? That they blamed our own bodies and the hormones that we created and expressed, in our bodies at certain times of the month as being the validation for why we couldn't be given responsibilities.
Right.
Why we couldn't be trusted. Why we were so easily dismissed historically.
Historically, absolutely.
Because of this frailty. And then, of course, there's the whole, knight in shining armor. I, as a man, the world is a dangerous place, so I must, therefore, protect you as a woman, and that chivalry and all that. And while there's some nice things, every once in a while, I think it's kind of fun to role play and have a man take care of me. Yeah, I said it just like that.
There you go.
But do I need a man to take care of me? No. And in my opinion, and I could be wrong because, I've had men tell me I'm wrong. I think it's much more important to be wanted than needed.
Oh, well, that was the end of my marriage. Where I told him, I'm like, I don't need you. You're right.
Right.
I want you.
I'm making a conscious choice to be with you. That should carry a lot of weight.
Right. I'm choosing to be with you. He's like, yeah, but I can't do anything for you. I'm like, you can. You can be here with me. Yeah, that was a big
Because
ending.
loving me isn't enough?
Right. No, because he had to be able to be better at something than I was to protect me so that he could feel like he was a man. Yeah. Right? And I actually understand that. I actually get that, because that is part of our whole society and culture, and how men,
how my purpose, what I'm here to do.
Right.
And I think that for a lot of our boys has made it difficult for them, because one, it sets them up, and maybe not everybody wants that kind of lifestyle, but that's the expectation of a man, to be a provider, to be a care, to do all these things, the protector and all of that. And maybe not every man wants to do that. And even more importantly, what I have seen now is that in order to do that, that means that you have to shut off other parts of yourself. And I have seen that be the undoing of men today. Right. And I think that it's been as unfair to them as it has been to us. And then as we see our lost boys, and these are the young boys that do not feel like they have any value on earth, because so much emphasis and presence has been put on young girls. And then as a mother of sons, I've had some issue with this. It could be as simple as going into Target and going, why is there only 2 racks of boys' clothes and there's a half a fucking acre of girls?
I beat my head against the wall for that, trying to find clothes for Nolan. I mean, I could have all the red, solid colored, red, blue, whatever that I want. Yeah. But anything more than that, I mean, I even posted on social media. Yeah. Mamas of boys, where are you getting clothes for your kiddos? Because, if I wanted to put them in plain white or like that really weird stripe, like Hang 10, dating ourselves again, shirts.
Flodos.
That's right. I mean, I could do that, but nothing more. Yeah. It's so, it's interesting.
So I kind of like, even though I know there are a lot of people that out there that may be struggling to understand, and while, like, for me, what your sexuality is your business, just like mine is mine, and I don't really want to have that conversation. The gender issue is a different one. And I have been able to see and appreciate the fluidity, because it's almost like the pendulum swing, right? Like we swung the male way to the extreme of one end and the female way to the extreme of the other. And now we're trying to swing that back and find some balance in the center. And sometimes that can be a bit shocking to the system. Right. Especially if you're like way out there hanging in the ethers of one of those angles. Right. And yet I can clearly see, and I'm sure you can too, and others, where that hasn't been a one-size-fits-all. Right. And for me, I don't want anybody to put me in a box. Right. I don't want to put anybody else in a box either. So, it's been an interesting thing to, within my own self and my own mind, to sort of find the balance within that. Because, I have my own opinions and biases and everything as well. But from a greater standpoint, like from the higher perspective, I clearly see it, understand it, must happen, makes great sense, do what you got to do, push the agendas, because we're trying to break through some barriers here.
Right, absolutely.
And so, I don't always like what I see and hear, and yet within I understand it doesn't matter whether I like and see it or hear, it's here, it's got to happen. It's part of this process, it's part of this growth process. And so one of the things that I'm looking at this month, turning 55, in International Women's Day. And, with everything that's happened in the last year, because we're also coming up on a year anniversary of some things, is that really understanding the purpose of things. And for me, it's always been about, as long as I know there's a purpose, then I'm like, cool, I can accept anything, right? But if there's no purpose, then why are we doing this?
Then what's the reason? Yeah.
Right? And there really is a purpose. And I feel like for us now, we're going through another morph, if you will, the purpose. So the playing fields have been kind of leveled, which I think has been good, even though it's been incredibly incredibly challenging. And I'm not
Right.
making light of the last year, but we can all agree the playing fields in a lot of ways have been leveled, right? And so now as we're trying to sort of figure out what new life with a capital L looks like, everybody's bringing their ideas and opinions to the table. It's not one section or one group or one gender calling all the shots here.
No.
And that to me has been like, so we've cleared a lot of things and maybe we still have a lot of things to clear yet, but look how far you've come,
Right.
baby.
Right.
And I say that to both of them, to all of us, because we really have. And I think for me, that's what I'm allowing myself this month is rather, I'm not denying the fact that we still have a long way to go. I do want to take a moment to pause, to sit, to smell the roses, to appreciate what has grown in this garden that we have tended and toiled so lovingly and painfully
Right.
in this, most recent Earth 7.0.
Well, the acknowledgement and the celebration of women internationally understanding what still needs to occur and what has happened is not, what was my point? It is an unveiling, to go along with what you're saying, has been an unveiling and awareness of subconscious or unconscious biases that we have held. I mean, just about everyone can agree that men and women and all genders should be equal.
Yeah.
I just about everyone can agree to that.
Sure.
I'm sure that there are extremists that do not. Removing those from the whole party. So yes, absolutely.
But equal can also mean different.
Well,
we can be different and still be equal.
I see equal as equal opportunity.
Yes.
Equal opportunity to whatever.
Right.
And then whatever occurs with that opportunity has to do with their own person and their own destiny and their own awareness and so on and so forth. But that's what I see is equality, is equal opportunity. But it brings us back to a conversation that Sonya and I have had over the past couple of weeks because of another project that we're working on.
Yeah.
Is we don't know what we don't know. And so there's so much of these views that are held about women that we don't know that we have them. We don't know. And so this is not a man against a woman,
not at all,
or any gender against any gender. It's an opportunity for all of us to be aware that we have these unconscious, subconscious beliefs and biases, regardless of where we've been.
Yeah.
And to uncover those, because those drive our actions and those drive our responses or reactions to other people. Someone says something that pisses you off and it doesn't make sense as to why it would piss you off.
Right.
It's probably because it's bumping up against something you're not even aware that you believe or think.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, because even as I sit here in the awareness that this is big, this is important, this is good, and we can see how far we've come and we may be able to see how far we need to go, that is for all of us as a collective.
Absolutely. And it is a collective growth point in our evolution.
Right.
That we have all agreed, okay, when you get here, we're all going to meet at rest stop number 78 along Highway 10, and we'll kind of pull off to the side of the road, and we'll debrief how the trip has been so far.
We'll have a chat.
Right? Because to me, it's like, again, I talk about it all the time. We are each individual drops of water, and we all come from and return to the same ocean.
Right.
Sometimes the waves push some of us up on shore, and sometimes the waves pull some of us back into the water.
Right.
But it is a collective thing that we are individually experiencing and then collectively sharing. Yeah, it's a little mind bug. It's a little wibbly wobbly, timey wimey kind of a thing. From a Dr. Who vein.
I was going to say that's from Dr. Who. Yes.
And to overthink it, or overanalyze it, or overjudge it, or over dismiss it.
Right.
Those are, again, all the biases and our self-projections and what we've been taught. And I also have told myself, when I catch it in myself or when I see it in someone else, rather than just judge them harshly, and this has been a challenge at times, because there have been times when I have just wanted to just like completely write somebody off because they're just, never going to change, not worth my time, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And then but if I can allow myself to sort of open my vision a little bit bigger and see them as if they were me, mm-hmm. and try to understand, if I was them, what would be my motivation here? What would be my biases here? It allows for me to have empathy. Mm-hmm. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that I have to do anything with it. That's just my own growth potential.
Right.
I can accept that person is still going to be that person and not acceptable in society, or, maybe somebody that, needs to be educated, but not by me. Right? Like, I don't believe in throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because even though I understand that there are some situations and some people that are just horribly egregious, we are all here to learn.
Right.
And if we don't give everybody the opportunity to learn, then we are holding them back. They can hold themselves back. And
right.
we can just sit there and go, okay, but you're hitting yourself, pal. Right? But I don't want
that wall you keep running into, that's the wall you build.
Yes, exactly. But not that I have to feel like, and it's just me personally, right? But I've come to this. It used to be, yes, no, I'm going to sit here and be in your face like a fly buzzing around your head until you understand the truth, right? And that was like really me sort of like force feeding people into being what I thought was better, mm-hmm. right? And now, as I've gotten older, I've recognized that, while I still want to do that, I have to allow everyone to have their experience, just like I have to allow myself to have my own.
Right.
As long as it causes harm to none.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because I've recognized that it really is for the good of all. We just may not know it yet. And then they're like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Right? If you didn't have that experience to witness, then you wouldn't know within yourself that doesn't feel right, and then compel you to do something with it, whether internally or externally, right? So what is that? They say for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. Mm-hmm. Sometimes those things happen, those horrific things happen, not so that we can, destroy it so that it can never come again, but so that we can learn from it.
Right. So
that the next time that it does come again, because I don't know about y'all, but my lessons keep coming back until they're 100% sure.
Until they are fully integrated.
Fully integrated.
Yes.
Where it's no longer a trigger.
Absolutely.
And that's been a big thing for me as a woman, to
right.
not be triggered by those things. And one of the ways that I shut myself down was to make sure that I didn't respond or react hysterically.
Oh, goodness, yes. Don't be emotional.
Because that was going to be, no, I could be emotional, just don't be hysterical.
Oh, okay.
Right? And there were a lot of times where I'd have, well, why is it okay for you to yell, but when I yell, I'm being I need to calm down.
Right.
Why don't you calm the fuck down?
Right.
Right? So these are all things that we can either come to loggerheads over, or you can just take a step back, look at it, and make a decision. Is this battle worth the fight?
Right.
Is this person worth the battle?
Right.
Right? And that does take having an idea and an understanding of who you are. Not externally, but internally.
Right.
Right? So before I am a woman in this lifetime, I am a spiritual being.
Right.
Right? And as a spiritual being, I have a completely different perception on what the meat suit's up to.
Right.
You know? And so while that may not be the case for everyone, and I fully accept and honor that, this is where I'm coming from, right? So I can be more fluid with that.
Right.
I can be like, yeah, I know that should shock and piss me off, but it really doesn't. Because in the grand scheme, it's not my issue.
Right.
It's not I don't feel that. I don't experience that, right? Doesn't mean I don't honor or have care or concern or empathy for those that might. Doesn't mean that I might not want to go run into the burning building and try to rescue them. But within myself, I had to make peace with and reconcile and be okay with pink. All right? Like, this is what I'm trying to say. I had to be okay with those parts of myself that I wasn't okay with by showing up like this.
Right.
In this lifetime.
Right. Absolutely. The fact that if you are of the philosophy that we choose so much of our lives before we come in because of spiritual agreements, contracts, understandings, whatever term you'd like to use, I am of that belief. I am of the belief that I chose to show up at the time that I chose, in the body that I chose, in the family that I chose, all of it I chose, because it would give me whatever it is that I needed or was looking, maybe not even needed, just was looking to experience. And so coming from that point of view, it doesn't mean that any challenges that I have experienced or any gifts that I have experienced by being a woman is any less or more than anything else. It just means that for whatever reason, I chose to show up as a woman to participate, just what Sonya is saying, just to participate in what is happening and to do my part.
Yeah. And sometimes I get it good, sometimes I don't. It's like I go into the kitchen and I can't find anything to eat, and I like grab 4 or 5 ingredients, and I'm like, well, let's throw this together and see what it does. And sometimes it's like, ooh, I just made a new recipe. And other times it's like, that is terrible. Please, yes, throw it in the garbage. I won't eat it either, right?
Right.
I mean, and maybe that's oversimplification, but, you know, it's an experiment.
Right.
We're just experimenting here.
Right.
And so, you know, sitting here where I'm at right now, looking back over the last 54 years of my life, I feel like it's been very interesting. Definitely not boring.
No.
And this lifetime for sure, I've had a lot more, you know, get out of jail free cards than I've ever had.
Women
right,
lives.
I wouldn't have made it to 24
right.
in any other lifetime. Well,
right.
Because I didn't in a lot of lifetimes. But that being here, being able to sort of have more time to be able to broaden and expand the little, you know, balloon, stretch it out a little bit before I blow it up, is definitely allowed for me to release a lot of things from previous lives that were just like, yeah, that really sucked. I don't ever want to go there again. And then because of that understanding, I'm able to look at life as I'm living it right now with a little more of a philosophical kind of a, not just it's so important like in my 20s, like, no, this is the most important thing of the moment right now, and the whole world needs to stop because we need to deal with that right now. And it's like, now I'm like, yeah, that's an issue and I'm working on it, but I got 12 other things going on over here at the same time that are equally important to me. Right? So my passion, although it appears like it's faded a little bit, I feel like that's not really the case. I've just learned that the wheel turns.
Right. I think the best thing that we can do personally in our own lives, this is how I'm approaching it. The best thing that I can do personally in my own life in being a woman and acknowledging all that has come and all who have come before me and all who will come after me is to be the most authentic, integral person that I can be. And that doesn't, and whatever little waves that causes in the, you know, cosmic soup of humanity, I can feel as though that I did right.
Yeah.
And I did good.
Yeah.
And
by your definition.
Right.
For
the best that I can do, for the best that I can see, that I can know. And also, I mean, Sonya mentioned it, and with harm, with no intentional harm to any.
Yeah.
Now, what I may do may cause people to be unhappy, uncomfortable, frustrated, angry, hurt.
Yeah.
My intention for doing anything that I do is never to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I say never in the fact that I have worked really, really hard that be my conscious choice. I don't have it down yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is always the choice that I try to put at first.
And including yourself in that as well.
Right, absolutely.
Because I know that there are a lot of situations where a woman may cause herself harm in trying to cause no harm to other or to make, and so, you know, you get to include you in that, and harm to none, including yourself. And, you know, one of the big things that I believe you're talking about the ripples is that, you know, if I just work on being the best me that I can be, then that's the energy that I'm putting out in the world, and that absolutely ripples out to others.
Right.
And whether I know that people are watching me or not, I know I watch people that have no clue that I'm watching them. I'm sure there are people that watch me.
Yes.
So, you know, if I can just be the best me that I can be, and show up in the way that, you know, I have come to learn and understand that I want to show up, which is leading with my heart, then that's the energy that I am choosing to cast out into the collective energy field.
Right.
And I think that that's doing great things. Like I most days I get told by my people, that's all you got to do today, and I'm just like, okay, well then I'm done. I'm gonna go make a sandwich.
Woohoo! High five!
Yeah, right. And it can be that simple. And
right.
I think, you know, in all things, we tend to, you know, and I'm not minimizing any of this when I say this. Let me just preface that. But, you know, we do tend to overanalyze, overthink, overjudge.
Mm-hmm. And
part of that is part of the great critical thinking of our brain, and part of that is because sometimes we react rather than respond.
Mm-hmm.
And having learned the hard way, you know, and there's been times that I've manipulated and things because I knew I wasn't going to get it if I showed up this way, so here, let me show up that way. And maybe at the time it felt good. Looking back on it, I feel like, okay, was that the most authentic me? No. It was the most truthful, realistic me, knowing that if this is what I wanted to obtain, then this is what I was going to have to do to get it, right? And then, of course, we've talked in the past about the prostitute archetype.
Right, absolutely.
And, you know, and especially for women, that can be a really big trigger. And then we look at maiden, mother, and crone,
mm-hmm.
which, forgive me, don't hate me, I've switched to matriarch. Although I'm asking my people to sort of show me crone in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, I feel like crone was sort of demoralized, you know. The only way that you could be a wise old woman is to be an ugly old hag.
Right. Well, I would say that, yes, that is.
So matriarch to me is like, yeah, that's stepping into some power right there, right? Plus it's 3 M's. I don't know why they went mother, maiden, mother, and then crone. No, maiden, mother, and matriarch. It's got a much nicer flow. I seriously doubt anybody out there is going to be changing it because of me. But within myself internally, you know, that also gave me, I think it also sort of helped to disconnect from some past life pain. But in that matriarch, it also showed to me that my role now is to be that matriarch. And not just for women.
Right.
But for anyone, right? How can I, you know, be that wise elder for the collective?
Right, absolutely. Well, I think language changes.
Yes.
And so crone doesn't carry the weight or has a different meaning or a different context mm-hmm. than matriarch. I agree with matriarch. You walk in, you think matriarch, I'm sorry, I see a queen.
Right.
Right? So there's a woman in her power.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily see crones as a woman in her power, so I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So that's just kind of, you know, parsing it in my brain.
Right. But it's a feminine role.
Yeah.
in humanity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a powerful feminine role. And if you, again, study history, you'll see that, it's flip-flopped and it's getting ready to flip-flop again. The women were in charge, and then, the patriarchy, it was a matriarchy and then a patriarchy, and then now we're coming around again. And it's like, and if you think it's bad now, right, with some of these things, seriously, read your history books, because at least we are living in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Right? In the 12th century, we were stoned to death.
Right.
How dare you, you impudent woman.
Yes.
Right? And we were a witch, and we're this, and we're that. And all of that was because of control. I mean, even the goddesses were only made saints. Right. And only under duress, because we refused to give up our goddesses. Now, there's a powerful woman. Breed. So we have come, all of us collectively, not just women, have come a long way.
Right.
Because I do agree that, and this might upset some people to hear it, it's what we had to work with at the time. Right. If there weren't men that were willing to support that change would have never happened.
Right.
Because they meaning, the masculine energy of the time, literally had us institutionalized if we didn't know our place. Right.
And that energy of the masculine energies working with the feminine energies to continue this process. It's required.
It is. And it's going to continue into the future. And we're going to see more of this shifting and changing. And, I think it's kind of cool and exciting to see, literally from like when I was a teenager to now. So 40 years? I know that seems like a long time, but historically it's not. No. We're talking hundreds of years of patriarchy, maybe thousands.
Right.
And in the last 40 years, we've made huge shifts and strides, right?
And so there is a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
We're seeing that, right? We're seeing a lot of pushback from different areas of the world, different institutions, different organizations, and that just means we're getting somewhere.
That's absolutely what it means.
It means we're getting somewhere, and we're probably going faster than a hell of a lot of people may want us to.
Yeah.
But we're doing it.
We are. And I am not just doing it for myself.
No.
I'm doing it for all of us.
Yes.
So if I'm going up, everybody's going up with me.
Right.
We're all going to rise up
Male
together.
and female.
That's what I mean.
Male and
100%.
female. Absolutely.
Because to me, to just have it be, one-sided is going to keep it lopsided.
Right. We perpetuate the back and forth of I can't think of the word.
Yeah. I don't. Pendulum.
Swinging. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm getting a little seasick.
Yes. We need to move past that.
Yeah. So, my wish for my birthday is that, we just continue to grow and evolve and be the shiny little star beings that we are, and always with love.
Right.
Because, love is all you need. And so that's my wish. That's my wish for my birthday, is that we see the love within ourselves, we see the love all around us, and we just let it flow. And everywhere that it goes, it touches, and it heals, and it illuminates. So that's what I've learned in 55 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Everything is sacred.
It is.
That is what I have learned in my 53 years. Every single thing is sacred.
It is.
And so even the struggles, everything is sacred. So including this. So may my birthday, which I had no intention of saying this, but my birthday wish would be that we can all of us, every single person, collectively be able to see the sacred in their lives.
That's a good wish.
We rock.
We do rock. Aren't you glad that we're here? So with that, we are going to cut short because we're still celebrating. It's our birthday week.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Have a fantastic week. Be sure to share with others that may find this podcast interesting as well. We have all of our links to all of our places. I might just do the Linktree thing next time, and then I only have to put one on there.
There you go.
But we're really excited about what we've got coming down the pike here in the next month or so. More opportunities to work with us, to share with us, and to grow with us.
Yes.
And until then,
as they say, like, subscribe, and follow. This is Piperlyne with In My Experience.
And I'm Sonya Lee. Take care.